Hosted by Mike, the Big Cheese.
welcome back to the Heavy Metal Mayhem Radio Show. It is Sunday, July 14th. We're moving halfway through the summer already. It's going too quick for me, but it's been a great one here in New York. We've had blistering heat waves nonstop since June, and I love it. Makes me feel like I'm down south in Florida again. Well, welcome everybody. We got a great show for everybody tonight. First off, Overkill with Feel the Fire off the debut record. To me, that's the classic version of Overkill. Rat, Bobby. Oh my God, I just love that lineup. Dee Dee. You can't beat it. I wish they would get back together and do it all again. Bobby, well, there's Blitz and there's the other Bobby, but Bobby's got his other band, Satan's Tan. They got a new record out. Blitz is always doing different things. And when we spoke to somebody a few weeks ago, they said they might get back together with him. It was Dan Lorenzo from the Patriots and Black saying that they might work on some new music for that project they were doing a few years ago. It'd be great if they did that again. But classic Overkill, you can't beat it. All right, we got a great show for everybody tonight. Bryan Patrick and Phil Ross from Sentry, formerly of Manila Road, are on tonight's show. Andrew DeCagna of Ironflame and Icarus Witch is also on tonight, so don't forget to stick around for both of those interviews. Speaking of Manila Road, our good friend Christian, he's got a band called Chains and Leather. I know this show's a little bit far off. It's in October. It's around Halloween, so there's going to be a Halloween costume party, and that's my favorite time of year. We go big for Halloween in my house. 1025 at Quinn's Pens in Middletown, New York. Chains and Leather are going to be playing. They're going to be doing a Manila Road tribute set. So if you're in the area, definitely go check them out. They're a killer band. All right, let's get back to the music. Unfortunately, we lost another one. We lost a lot of people in the last couple of days. I mean, not musical people, till Bob Gurley of Power Lord just passed away. Bob was on the show a few years ago. I'm sorry, Tony. Tony passed away. Tony and Bob were on the show a few years ago. I'm all tongue-tied today. You got to forgive me. I'm in the middle of doing something as I'm trying to do the show. I should really just concentrate on the show. But Tony Gurley from Power Lord passed away. We had Tony and Bob on the show some years back. Two great guys. I'm going to miss Tony, so we're going to play some Power Lord in a few minutes for everybody. Yeah, you know what? Let's do that right now. We'll do something off of the only record they had out. How does that sound? The Awakening, Power Lord.
tear it down or throw it away. Yeah, we can build it up. We can work it out. Don't be left alone with nothing to say. Woo! Sure enough, we can take a chance on destiny. Open up, this is more than just a fantasy. Some call it fate, maybe we met for a reason. Or was it chance? Did we just meet for a season? Yeah! Well, reaching up, we can make our dreams reality. Turn it up, let the music be the remedy. Whoa, yeah! Woo! Yeah, 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 yeah. All right.
All right, brand new Bryan, Twist of Fate. The guys are going to be on the show the last Sunday of July the 28th. Don't forget to tune in for that interview. And before that, we did a little Blind Illusion. It's been a while since I played them with Smash the Crystal and then some Power Lord. The Awakening Power Lord was the song for Tony Gurley, who passed away almost a week ago today. I just found out a few days back. Tony was on the show with his brother Bob. We got off to a rocky start here today because they deleted my show once again last week. Unfortunately, because they deleted it the week before that, there was only one podcast on there to re-upload. But coming down here, I realized that none of my URLs were intact. Nothing was the same. I had to start it all up again. As I'm doing that, I'm trying to write down all the numbers as the show is getting ready to start. I had completely lost track of what was going on with this week because I've done it so many times. I just forgot about it. So if you're listening to the live show, which is amazing if you are because it's been changed so many times over the last couple of months, thank you. But in the future, I mean, we only could do live shows until January 1st, and then they're eliminating the live programming on here. Everything is going to have to be pre-recorded. I'm still going to do the show like it's live. I'm just going to do it on the day, Saturday, the day before it airs. I'm going to do the show live, book both of my guests for that day, record it the same way I do this show, and just upload it the next day. So it still has that live feel to it, but I just can't do it live. They won't let me. And I've been looking around for internet sites that I could host my own internet radio program on, and I've had a hell of a time trying to figure out all the logistics to it. I mean, I even went to some sites with we'll have you up and running in 5 minutes, and 45 minutes later, I'm still reading the first line of instructions. I just can't figure it out. So I'm thinking about doing that next year. If I could find somebody that can help me, get set up with a site, maybe we'll do that. But in the meantime, I'm not going to be posting any links to the show on Spreaker anymore. I just finished uploading all the shows to Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and we're going to use Spotify as the main hub for playing back the show. So on the Facebook page, anywhere else, I'm going to be posting the links to the Spotify show. Even Spotify deleted a few shows, and they was like, you can't do a playlist. So the holiday shows, there's no talking, there's no interviews. We just play an hour of music based around Halloween or New Year's or, Christmas. You're not allowed to do that anywhere anymore, it seems. They consider it to be a playlist because there's no talking on it. So they eliminated those, those holiday matinee shows. But I'm fine with that. In the future, I'll figure out another way of doing it. But go to Spotify, list all the shows there. On Facebook, we're putting the links up to Spotify. And the best place to list to any one of the past shows is on my website, the HeavyMetalMayhemRadioShow.com. Or go to Heavy Metal Mayhem Radio Show Blogspot, which is an easier one to go to because there's a search bar in there. So you can look for any band that what you're looking to interview for. Whatever you want is right on there. So go to any one of those two sites, and TalkShoe is the host site for them. All my shows since I left Blog Talk Radio have been uploaded to TalkShoe. They never mess around with anything. They leave everything intact, and they're free. So check them out. There's a lot of great shows on there. All right, what can we do right now? How about we do some Tension? We'll do that a little bit later on in the show. Let's do some Broker's Helm. It's been a while since I played them too. Here's Hell's Whip. this is Mike. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Bryan, this is Mike. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, bud.
Oh, great.
How
You're
you
on the
doing?
air. Yeah, you're on the air live.
Oh, fantastic. What's going on up there?
Yeah, it's pretty hot up here, so I'm happy about that. Usually we got shitty weather in New York, but we got some heat wave
Well, I'll
going
tell
here.
you, it's hot down here in Kansas, man. I think it's 103 at the current time. So, yeah,
Wow.
it's pretty brutal. Yeah.
You- You're a lot hotter than we are. But listen, Bryan, it's a pleasure to have you on there today. Such a fan of your singing and everything you've done with Manila Road in the past, and now Sentry. I mean, what a great job you did on this record that came out a few months back.
Thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it. Manila was very much a staple, of my childhood and all through growing up. So, I think a little bit of Century may have rubbed off in it. So,
A little bit, but it has a distinctive style to it also, and it's very original too. And the one thing I was really impressed with, it would have been very easy to say, we're going to keep Manila Road going, and we'll be Manila Road 5 like Riot did and a lot of other bands do. You didn't take that route.
sure.
You went completely different.
Yeah. Well, that was probably a little bit of all of our, doing with Mark. We understood Manila Road was more than the music, and when it came to the fans and everything like that, I think it would have been really a disrespectful service, for our fallen brother Mark to continue on with Manila Road, and me and him had some discussions about that too. He always asked me, hey, well, if something happens to me, what are you going to do? And I was like, well, I'll continue on, and so, we always joked about it and stuff, but, at the end of the day, this album was really a sort of for me, a tribute for him, in my own way. So.
Absolutely, and I'm happy that you did go on this way because, like you said, it would have been easy to continue on as Manila Road, and the fans would have just went along for the ride, it seems, because seems like it doesn't matter today. You have like Quiet Right out there performing with no original members. You have some Vixen with one original member. It's an easy thing to do today where wait, I think we got a phone call. Let me connect him first. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I got you. I still have you. You
Howdy,
there?
man. This is
Phil, you there?
Hello. Yeah, I hear you.
Okay,
I hear you loud and clear.
Great. This is Mike. You're on the air. Bryan's already with us. It's good to have you on here today.
Great to be here, man.
My pleasure. So, I forgot what we were just talking about. We were just the fans really didn't. It doesn't really seem to matter to the fans anymore. You think that's a good thing or a bad thing where they'll accept anything today just because it has the name on it and maybe not that original feel to it or the original lineup or even the key members of that lineup?
I think that's a
It's
big
just
part
about
of
personal
the
preference,
Manila
I
Road
guess.
family.
We all
because
want
the fans were
something
really
authentic,
family to Mark,
or
and,
whatever. But it's hard to know
and
where
it
to
wouldn't
draw
been
the line
right
with certain
to
things. And
to
I guess a lot of
continue
times I
on with
don't
that
hold it
moniker.
against
So for
anybody
me,
who's into any
Manila was
Reformation
part of
stuff
my
or
life
different
for
stuff where it's
40
just
years, and
one rhythm guitar player from one album or something like that. But
to see it end the way it did,
it's uncommon now,
with me
and
and
a lot of these
Bill
guys are
and
getting older
Nordy,
now too, so it's more common to see like stuff
being
cobbled
present
together like
was,
that.
it was sort of a bittersweet end, because we all knew at the time that he wasn't well, and it was just a matter of time, so it was tough. So
Yeah. Well, Bryan, you've been with the band since the '90s. Phil, you joined like 2016. You hooked up with Manila Road.
no, I joined. I started singing with the band in 2000, right after their Balagan Bang Your Head Festival appearance. Mark realized after that show, if they were going to do any touring, they were going to need a singer. And then, they get back from that show, and as a matter of fact, they were practicing in my basement at the time, and he didn't want to sing one day, and I just started practicing. I just started singing with him, and he said, why don't you just do this? I'm like, all right, whatever. And that's how my beginnings start. But you have to understand, I was a roadie for Manila Road when I was 15 years old. So I would get into the bars and stuff. That was the only way I could get in was, hey, haul equipment and, sit behind the stacks. And that's what I did. And So that was back in 1981 with Rick Fisher, and so I've seen all facets of the band throughout all the years, and it's a fond memory for sure.
That was the only way to get into the clubs back then. You kind of had to go with the bands back in the early days.
Yeah, back in the 80s, I mean, that's when it all began, so it was, I've lived through a very nice time frame in the metal era, so.
That we did. I think we lost Phil.
Yeah.
Phil, you there?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I think we lost him. I don't know if he got disconnected or...
Huh.
I heard him talking, and then I don't know what happened. Maybe he'll call back in. We'll see. We'll keep it going until he does. But yeah, they were magical times back then. So when I think we got him now. So let me connect him again. No, we lost him again. Okay, maybe he's having issues with the phone. We'll see. But talking about getting Sentry going. When did you decide? Hey, we want to continue something. That pays tribute to Mark in a way, but it's something new. How did it all come about?
Well, really, right after Mark's death, the promoter for Keep It True, Oliver Weinsheimer, he came over. Of course, he's a really good friend of ours, and we played this festival many a times. And he said, "We've got to do something." And I'm like, "What are you talking about, man? Mark just passed away." And he goes, "No, we got to do a tribute show." And I'm like, "No, we're not ready for this." And he said, "I don't care. We'll do anything and everything to do this." And so I was like, well, it's not really fair because your festival's already sold out, and you're going to add this to your billing, and you might upset a lot of people that won't be able to get there and get in. And so if you want to broadcast this live worldwide when we do it, I'll agree to it. And but I'm gonna need some help. I'm gonna need some members. So I got Leif Edlin from Candlemoss and Gianluca Silvi and Jarvis Leatherby from Night Demon, and Tan from Iron Sword. We had a whole slew of people that were willing to come on stage with me and pay our good friend and brother his last tribute. So in 2019 we did that for the Keep It True Festival, and you can go on YouTube and it's all right there still. As a matter of fact, Oliver still does world broadcasts now. I think that's something that we kind of incorporated into their festival. So it's really nice, to be here in the States and, see all my friends and stuff playing on the stage and, during the shows, and it's really nice. So something's kind of grew out of that. But our main guitar guy that I chose for it was Callie Goldsmith, and he had played with Nordy a few times in some bands, and I knew of him, played with him in a few shows with his other bands. And make a long story short, right after that show, he asked me, he goes, "Man, can we keep doing something?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." I mean, the technology today and the communications is so easy to get things and files back and forth. It doesn't really matter if, you can have people in Australia, China, wherever, and still make music. And, that's the beauty part of it, of today's technology. But like I said, it was a dream come true to just do something new and continue on. And Callie's a really great songwriter and wrote some really good pieces. So, and Nordy as well. Nordy wrote a piece on there, and also Phil's all over it. So, yeah, the album was a lot of fun to do.
It's a great record. Did you think about, like you said, it's easy to do it today with, the way you can record with the technology, the MP3s. You can have members all over the place to do it. But did you think
Sure.
about when it comes to performing live? Because now you got two people over in Europe that you have to rely on for shows. So you just can't take any show that pops up your way. You really have to kind of plan it out and make sure it's worth it.
Well, yes, but we also had some experience with that too, because in Manila Road, our drummer was in Germany.
Yeah.
And so he would, he would never get any files or anything like that. Mark would send him sort of like, hey, this is a rhythm track. These are the rhythm tracks, what we're doing. And if they had lyrics, he'd do some, fake mock lyrics down real quick for him. But that would really be, Nordy is a very spontaneous drummer. He likes to just be in the moment. So a lot of times, like on the Mysterium and the Blessed Curse and the CAC album, a lot of them takes are just him coming right into Wichita, listening to it, and then going in and playing it. And that is a very rare breed of an animal. And of course, Randy Fox was one of his mentors throughout the 80s, and so he has that style of of spontaneity to play different things and have different ideas. And so with that being in mind, here in Kansas, me and the bass player and Mark, we would, have the drum tracks on, say, like a phone, and we'd plug it into the PA and we'd hit play and we'd play to that and sing to that. And so we had the studio drums that we were playing to. And so that's how we would rehearse a lot back then. And still today, me and Phil will rehearse now. Similar, we'll have Nordy's drums and Callie's guitar pieces coming through the PA, and we'll just play. And that's how you have to do to try to keep your, pipes warmed up and, your fingers and muscle memory going. And so you just got to do what you have to do to prepare yourself, because it is. I mean, we played our first show this year in March at the Up to Hammers Festival for the warm-up show, and we had just a couple days of rehearsal there in Germany before we flew over, and it was a different animal, playing for the first time together as a band, 2 days before we play a show. And then we did the same thing when we played to Keep It True. We had a couple rehearsals and then played to Keep It True at the last minute. I think Satan's Host had to cancel or something. Yeah. But other than that, you got to prepare yourself. That's just part of being a musician. If you want to go play shows and do things that dreams are made of. So.
It helps that you're all professionals, too, because you could get together and get into a room and 2 days later know the whole set and get it down. It also comes from all the years of playing and the experience of being in bands, so that definitely does help out. And you would never know you just got together for a couple of days, because I saw the videos. I'm like, you would never think that this is the first time they're actually playing together in person and get all these songs. Yeah. It seemed like you guys were a unit for so long, but in a way, most of you kind of were with Manila Road, too, so you had that kind of going for you also.
Right. Me and Phil and Nordy, we've been together, I think, since 2017, I think, when Phil started. But I've had Nordy in my ranks, since 2011. And so, yeah, the familiarity with your band members is helpful. Knowing what makes them tick is always fun to learn. And, we push each other, and it's a lot of fun. So,
as a live band, do you kind of have to pick and choose where you play and when you play? Because it's not worth flying everybody into to Kansas for the weekend if there's only one show and a club lineup for you guys. So you got to kind of feel out where is the festivals kind of the best outlet right now for the band to play?
Well, maybe right now. I mean, we've got a little stint in Germany in September. We'll play in the Stormcrusher Festival, and then we've got a club show in between, and then we're playing the Ragers Elite Festival in Ham. So Manila Road played the Stormcrusher before, so it'd be really nice and honored to go back to there and to play for the fans there. And, it's not a real big festival. I think it's maybe 2,500 people, but it's an outdoor type event, and it's really a lot of fun to be there. So, and then the Ragers Elite, I think, is a really small kind of up-and-coming festival. There's, it's kind of weird. There's a lot of thrash stuff in there. So, but, Manila Road was always thrown into some wild festivals as well. And it just worked out. It balanced everything. So I think that's the big thing that festival organizers, like to do is kind of throw in some curves every once in a while. And we definitely are curveballs.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, you're also a drummer on top of that, and I guess that was your main instrument at one time.
I was a drum technician. There's a difference. um, there's a difference here. So, I'd help Rick, and I was Randy Fox's drum technician throughout, his time. And, I still consider him one of the best all-time drummers of all time. Anybody that had not, if you've listened to the albums and you're wondering what's going on, you cannot imagine without seeing it. He was just a beast in his own right, and to watch him play keyboards and drums at the same time. I watched him do solos with his Mockingbird hanging from his back with a big stack of Marshalls behind him, playing the drums and soloing at the same time, doing hammer-ons. He's just an incredible talent, smart individual, and he was a lot of fun to be around, and I call still my brother today. So he's a hell of a guy.
If you think of Kansas in the early 80s, you don't say to yourself, man, that must have been a hotbed of heavy metal, but there were a lot of great bands that came out of the area at that time. I mean, there was Banshee, Bishop Steel, Fortress,
Sure.
Manila Road, Iron Fist, Electric Leather,
Mm-hmm.
Stingy and Shore. There were a lot of bands that came from that area. So how was it back then as far as the club scene goes?
Man, it was great. We had, the Stygian Shore, Mike Palmer, the guitar player, his mother actually opened a bar called the Echo Chamber here in Wichita, just so the kids could play. Because, a lot of the owners, that were around town that Mark and them were playing in, because they were a little bit older than these guys, they didn't want these kids in their bar. They figured it was a liability. There was, they were underage, and back then we had the 3-2 law where the ages were 18, and so that's where they would try to play at some of these 18 bars, but some of them weren't letting these 15, 16-year-old kids in the bar to play because of that. So she opened up a bar, a 3-2 bar, and let them play. And, of course, Manila Road was a staple there. Stygian Shore, Electric Leather played there many times. Foresight is another band that was just incredible here back in them days. And that's when, I think it was in 85, Megadeth and Exciter came through. Megadeth was on their first album tour, Killing Is My Business Is Good. And, of course, Exciter was the headliner at the Chamber. So some of them type shows were phenomenal. The place held maybe, I think the fire marshal limit was 225 people or something, but we'd pack in 400 or 500 in this place.
Wow.
It was pretty much known as like it was a heavy metal biker bar back then. And so it got a little rough in there sometimes, but in the end, usually everybody mellowed out and had a good time. So
I love that. Everybody's got their stories about that place that they hung out as kids, went to the shows. And
sure.
I love when people talk about like Tony Iommi, that he's missing 2 fingertips and he's like the greatest guitar player. Steve Shaw, Greg Marshall had a hook on his hand. He played with a hook on his hand.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like,
yeah, man. He lost his hand in 84, and I think it was June around that time. And we were all at El Dorado State Lake, and we were out there having a keg party. And, of course, he got in his vehicle and headed home because he thought he needed to get home. Of course, got his truck high-centered on the country railroad tracks that didn't have any arms, or lights.
Yeah.
It just had a, square, X marking spot. And he thought he had enough time to get out of the way and tried to push it off one last time and slipped. And he said next thing he knew, he looked up and the train was running right over him. So the only thing that made it in between the tracks was his body, other than his, part of his arm. So we were that was another traumatic situation back then because, we went and, hung out with him in his hotel or in his hospital room with his bass hanging on the wall. And of course, back then, we'd get in trouble for, doing all kinds of illegal stuff in the hospital. And the nurses would come in, you guys can't smoke that in here. And all, But But other than that, he woke up and seen his bass hanging there, and he seen, he didn't have an arm. He said, "How am I going to do this?" And they said, and we said, well, "You're going to do it, man." So he tried with a pick, and of course he couldn't hold a pick with his prosthetic arm very well. And I said, we suggested that, hey, just use your hook. And man, he went through a ton of strings. I mean, he really should have had some sort of sponsorship with Ernie Ball or something, because he just munched through strings. And of course, the hook pitted up a lot of his bass, around the pickup. Yeah. So it gave it a lot of unique characteristics. He also learned how to play keyboards at the time. And Greg, he came out the hospital and played a show 30 days from his release. So he's a tough old boy. He still lives around town. He's out east part of town, about 60, 70 miles, and he's doing well and still alive and kicking.
Yeah, I had Greg on the show years ago. He's a real nice guy, fun guy to talk to. But,
he's a great guy, man. Yep.
It just shows you could do anything you want to do if you really want to do it. Maybe heavy metal is that, place to make things happen, because we get like a Special Olympics of like heavy metal bands, like with him, Rick Allen on drums, all guys missing body parts that can get together and play music that came through it all.
Yeah, right. I mean, he's a testament of that for sure. So.
Well, now that the Sentry record has come out, and I have to tell you, so far we're halfway through the year. This is still in my top 5 of the best albums of the year. I mean, that's just such a great job you did on it. But what about new music now? Because the band did get started quite a few years back. I know COVID kind of put a damper on everything for everybody, and nothing could happen. Yeah. But are you working on new music now? Is there something you're trying to
Matter of fact,
accomplish?
we've got about 4 songs we're working on right now for the next album, and I know we've got 2 more that are coming down the pipe. So yeah, it's looking pretty good. I've already got lyrics for 2 of them already, and writing 2 more. So we're hoping, me and Phil are hoping, by the time we get over here in the next month and a half in September, we'll be able to maybe add them songs to our repertoire and maybe pull them out in some of the live shows when we come over in September. So, yeah.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. Are you kind of continuing in the tradition of this last record? Is it sounding the same?
Oh yeah. It's going to be a lot of the same, but it's, there's a couple pieces that, I just kind of giggled, it has a little accept, feel to it, and, and it's understandable, cause Kali's, German. And, so it's really neat to watch how these guys, progress because everything's a building block. Kali sends us, the rhythm tracks, and as soon as Nordy has time, Nordy will go over to the studio and hammer out the drum tracks, and Kali will give us a little rough mix, and then with the drums, and send the guitar pieces back over. So, and that's how we do it. And once that happens, sometimes Phil has to go back and redo his part, just sort of kind of clean up and match up with Nordy. And because, Nordy sometimes, will do something a little different than what you're going to think. And that's not a bad thing. We love it. And like I said, it's everything's a learning curve. And once you figure out what works for you, it's a great story. So.
True. What I love on the album is that, you really flesh out the songs and the music. Not everything wraps up in a 3-4 minute time period. There are a lot of songs that go 7-8 minutes on there. Then you did that great Candlemass cover on the record also. I mean, like an 8.5, 9 minute song. So, I mean, you're not like trying to appeal to like a commercial audience. You're really just like fleshing out these songs and giving it your all.
Yeah. I think that has a little bit to do with the Manila part too in us, because Mark was pretty long-winded. He would like to do things, traditional but non-traditional at times. So he was a big believer, and we all understood as musicians that played with Mark, at any given time he could extend a solo section, and you better be ready for it, because if you're not, you're the one that's going to stand out. It's like, that's Mark Shelton. He didn't make a mistake.
Yeah.
It's going to be everyone's going to look at you, so you had to pay attention. And that was some of the first things I tried to instill with, anybody that knew was coming in. It's like, hey, learn the material. Okay. But then have an open mind, because he can change it on you at any moment and extend something. And when he does it, they're kind of looking at me like, thanks. I appreciate the heads up, because it's definitely helped out a lot with some of our, past members, Josh Castillo and Corey, and of course my brother was in the band. And so, my brother, he already knew, he grew up playing my Manila Road albums in my bedroom, and I'd come home and go, man, what are you doing? And so he already knew how to play to Mark's style and everything. So he was a wonderful fit back in the day. So other than that, it's, the dream goes on, and I try to honor Mark the best I can, and the way I write my lyrics and the style I write them, and because he taught me a lot. We researched a lot together, and just watching him sometimes, is the best way of learning. So.
True. I mean, with Callie as, I guess, the primary songwriter on the music end of it, has you ever sent you stuff that you felt like you had to reject because it wasn't like where you thought it should be, or maybe didn't fit into the mold of the music you were creating?
Oh, no, not really. Pretty much everything that you've heard on the Sentry album was what was, created. Phil came up with, of course, the funeral song, and that was just supposed to be like a fill-in thing. That was really never supposed to be sort of a song until Callie, did that big long draw-out piece with Nordy on the end, and it was like, okay, well, what are we doing here, And he goes, I need you to write lyrics. It's like, all right. So, and it sort of felt like, I don't know, it was the last song that I knew was going to be on the album. And it was just like, okay, well, this is going to be, my tribute to him. This is, but it's not about just the Mark, but about all of the fallen people that have been within all of our lives, So, it's just not my family, but it's yours to your family. And so everybody can sort of relate to that song. And that's the way I wanted to write it. So,
there's by no means is this a concept record, but lyrically and the title and the running order of the album feels like it belongs that way. Like everything kind of leads into the next one, like it's like chapter and verse.
Yeah, I can see why you would say that. The first song was sort of, I don't know, it was something that Nordy, kind of mouthed to us over a voicemail and a Facebook Messenger. Hey, I've got this idea. It goes da da da, and we were like, what the hell is going on here, And so Phil kind of took that piece and made a bass part, and so Callie kind of worked with both of it, and so Nordy went in and he recorded the drums, and Phil did the bass part, and so that's how that song came up. Nordy was the big instrument part of the very first song, Awakening. So, I'm sorry, I went blank. Our very first song on the album. So, are you there?
Yeah, you there? Yeah, but you have a bad connection. I feel bad that we lost Phil, but we're still here. Yeah, we're talking about Dark Matter, the first song.
Yes. Yeah, that was what Nordy had dreamed up in his mind, and so that's how that song came about. But everything else, Callie really did the 2 cents and put everything together, and his ability in the studio to mix is just incredible. And with Patrick Engel doing the final mastering and stuff, we couldn't have been happier with the album. The sound of it is just incredible. I wish a lot of albums were really full resonant, like, ours came out. But that's to each their own. Not everybody can sound the same, or it would be, rap.
Exactly. Hey, I couldn't agree more. Hey, Brian, I'm going to cut you loose in 2 minutes because I want to play some music off the record, some Manila Rose songs, and get my next guest on here.
Awesome.
But what do you got coming up? Is the tour next thing coming up for Sentry this fall?
Yeah, we're going to be doing our September show and 3 of them in Germany, and then we'll come back to this. Me and Phil will come back to the States and get seriously working on finalizing our songs to put on our next album, and hopefully we're hoping by summer next year to have another release. So,
Man,
and of course, we'll lean on our friend Stefan at High Roller, and he's been a great friend, and he does quality work. And if anybody is looking to try to get on a record label, I would highly suggest High Roller Records. They are incredible.
I couldn't agree more. They have some lineup on that label, and you're one of them, and I'm glad for that. And Brian, I'm going to cut you loose right now. I'm going to play Funeral next because I feel bad that we couldn't get Phil connected. If you talk to him, apologize for me. I don't know what happened. I kept trying to connect him, and we kept losing him. No
problem, man.
We'll do Funeral because that's one of his babies.
Hey, Heavy Metal Mayhem Radio. Kick ass.
Thank you. Take care, Ryan. Take care. It was good talking to you.
Thank you, man.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
The bell tolls in the distance. We walk through the lands together and remember blood in the sand. The last day has come now for you, my old friend. For you, my old friend. We've carried the caskets for centuries. The skies have turned blood red. The tears fall like rain. Words have been spoken. We thirst for relief. We thirst for relief. It's taken a lifetime to bring us all here, igniting the torches, releasing your fears. Your legacy's present, a hero's goodbye. I stand here now waiting in search of a sign. The souls I have taken become sacrifice. Mortal sword wields the fires that burn, the fires that burn.
fine, Mike. Can you hear me?
Perfect, loud and clear. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How bad can I be? I'm talking to you on a Thursday night.
Do you want me to turn my video on or?
No, I'm gonna turn mine off. It's an audio video anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Oh, okay. All right.
Actually,
Sounds good.
I don't even know how to turn it off, so you have to just look at me for the next half hour. So,
No worries, man. No worries.
hey, listen, such a big fan of Ironflame and you in general as a musician, going back to the Moon Throne days. That was the first time I came across your music back then, and man, I can't believe the amount of output that you've given us. Like
Oh,
over the last
wow.
20 something years, it's just incredible.
You're blowing my mind, man. I can't believe that you've known about my music for that long. That's insane. That's crazy. Thank you, man.
Yeah, and some great stuff. Then I love the way you effortlessly bounce between like the black and death metal market, the power metal market. I mean, you could do it all.
Well, I'm fans of all those genres pretty equally, and I just get I don't know. I just get a fire inside me to do a different style of music every couple of years it seems, and I just do my best to the best of my abilities. I just try and pay it homage, if you will.
I mean, isn't it important to have that kind of variety? I mean, musically, because it keeps things interesting, it keeps things flowing, and it shows that you're open to anything that interests you.
Well, I feel like it's like a diet. It wouldn't make sense to me for someone to eat the same thing every damn day. And the same thing goes with your musical taste. I mean, my main diet is metal, but there's so many different forms of metal, and I just never really understood those elitist types that are like, well, I like this and I don't like any other form of metal. Like, how? I just don't see how no other form of metal, if you like one form of metal, how another subgenre couldn't appeal to you in any way, shape, or form. It just doesn't make sense to me. So, yeah, I've just been a fan of like all those different styles of metal my whole life, and I always will be.
That's so true. I mean, when I came into the scene in the 70s, and I'm dating myself, it was just hard rock. The word heavy
Right.
metal really wasn't even used for bands. And even when metal did start, it was just heavy metal for everybody. It didn't matter if you were Venom, Merciful Fate, Slayer, AC/DC, Iron Maiden. It was all heavy metal. But, somewhere down the road, we subcategorized everything to such a fine detail. I think it kind of divided the audience more than anything else.
Totally, and I would agree with you absolutely, and especially in the country that we live in. I didn't really realize it until I left the country and toured a few different countries in Europe. Those guys over there are way more like, I'd say, you and I, in the respect that they accept any and all forms of metal, and they embrace it pretty equally. Yet they have metal fans that are a little more partial to one genre or another, but none of them, at least in my experience that I've met, have been nearly like as elitist, use that term again, as much as fans seem to be over here. It's very divided over here, it seems.
It's true. I just want my music to be good. I don't really care what
Right.
the genre
And you
has.
know what, man? I'm glad you say that, because that's what I say about music in general, is that there's good music and there's everything else. Like a genre is like really irrelevant.
True, and you've given us all of that over the years, which I love. And the new record, Kingdom Torn Asunder, from what I understand, is that this record was actually written before Where Madness Dwells. Is that true?
Yeah, you did some digging there too. You're right. It's the only time I've ever released music out of chronological order, and the reason being is that I had this one ready. I had Kingdom Torn Asunder written when we got back from our first European tour in 2019, and that was the mind state that I was in. And you can listen to it, and it kind of makes sense. It sounds like it would be the follow up to Blood Red Victory, which is our third album, and so much in my life shifted right around the time that I was, finalizing Kingdom Torn Asunder, that my whole mental state shifted. The world changed because the pandemic happened. The world came to a screeching halt, and that also coincided with my business partner passing away from cancer, and the business became my sole responsibility. It was a huge shift. He was, and besides being my business partner, he was also my best friend. So all these things like kind of transcended on me at once, and it really knocked me into a dark place. And I was feeling a certain way, and all the songs from Where Madness Dwells kind of fell out of me at that time, just as kind of a coping mechanism. And because the pandemic was still very much a reality at that time, I just felt like uh, as a cathartic release for myself, it made more sense to release those songs first. And I just felt that because the pandemic was happening, that the world could relate to those songs a little better than the upbeat, triumphant, anthemic nature that the songs on Kingdom Torn Asunder are on. So it just made sense to me, and it just felt right to do. So that's why I did it.
That's a pretty ballsy move when you think about it, because most bands that could put a record together like that would say, "Hey, I got to release it because it's time sensitive." But this was really more personal for you, that you just felt these songs represented who you were, and I love that as a musician, you put your feelings into your music, and that comes first, more than a release, more than what a label may want, because that would have been your first release with the High Roll, I believe, too.
It would have been. Yep, it would have been. And yeah, I mean, it was ballsy on a few different levels, in the respect that the out of chronological order, like I just stated, and also it was a bit of a shift musically, emotionally, all those things. Like, we never went any like really dark places musically with Ironflame before, and because of the emotional nature of the songs, lyrically speaking, I wanted the music to kind of reflect that. And so it took a turn in the songwriting process too, and there were much less songs that were reliant on guitar harmonies as hooks, and I really shifted towards a more like riff based approach, and it's more stripped down and what I would consider more real traditional heavy metal. And so I was a little worried about that, how the fans would react to that musical shift, and thankfully the reception was good. But yeah, there was definitely some apprehension there.
I can imagine if other bands that were holding on to a full-length record like that, they'd put it out as soon as they could, because with most bands, you'll go 4, maybe 5 years, before you get a new record, and a lot could change during that time. But with Iron Flame, I mean, 5 full-length records in less than 8 years, that's more than impressive of an output.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure you said to yourself, it's not going to be more than a year before this next record, well, Kingdom, comes out anyway.
Well, right, and I kind of kicked myself in the ass for setting such a frenetic release pace at the beginning of this project, because that's what people come to expect now. It's like, well, you can't go more than 2 years without a new record, or people are going to forget about you. At least that's the way I'm thinking about the fans. That may not be true, but so yeah, I kind of set that standard for myself, which it isn't always good, but it was it just worked out that when those songs fell out of me for Where Madness Dwells, it was still in line with our album cycle, our normal album cycle. And then honestly, I wasn't sure about releasing Kingdom Torn Asunder, because number one, it was out of chronological order. Number two, it was a shift kind of backwards almost to the previous albums, and I didn't want to confuse fans, but the reality of it was the aftermath of my mental state shifting after all that stuff happened in 2020 was I also hit a writer's block for the first time in recent memory, and I struggled to write new material. I tried, but when it's right and when it's not, and no matter what I was like putting out and working on, it wasn't right, and I knew it wasn't right. So time was growing short, so that album cycle was coming back around again, and I'm like, man, I have to do something, I have to release something. So I revisited the songs on Kingdom Torn Asunder and said, you know what, these are good songs, and they need to see the light of day. People will appreciate them. So this will yeah, I don't want to call it a placeholder album because it's really not. Like I said, the songs are quality, but it bought me more time to gather my bearings and get my songwriting back in gear, which it did. It totally did. I'm writing new stuff again now. It broke the floodgates open of the songwriting process for the next album. So.
Do you think if you didn't hit a wall with the songwriting at that point, maybe Kingdom wouldn't have come out right now? That those new songs that you would have been working on at that time would have been the next Ironflame record?
I think, yeah, man.
Yeah.
I honestly think, yeah, because you'll notice it, 2 years from now, when the next album comes out, it sounds like it would be the natural predecessor to Where Madness Dwells. It's the next logical step. I could safely say, and I haven't said this on any interview, written or audio, video, anything up until this point, but the next album is definitely going to sound different. We're going deeper, darker places than we've ever gone before. And this is, I don't want to bum fans out, but this is probably going to be the last power metal-ish Iron Flame album that you're going to hear.
But I love that you do that you can move in that kind of direction that quickly and change based on how you feel and what you're writing at the time. Because, listen, you get AC/DC, you get Iron Maiden. You know
Sure.
the album you're going to get from that band every time they put it out. It doesn't matter if it was the 80s, 90s, 2000s. You know who it is. You know you're going to get that record. With Iron
Right.
Flame, you know what you're going to get, but you never know what you're going to get. It's like a mixed bag
Well,
of nuts.
yeah, and there's something to be said about that. There's a level of, confidence and reliability in picking up one of those band's albums. You know what you're going to get. But then there's also the other side of the coin to where, I could say Amon Amarth. Let's talk about Amon Amarth. As much as I loved Amon Amarth when they first came out, and as much as I admire them and respect them for chugging away this entire time since the late 90s, yeah, I can't remember the last time I bought an Amon Amarth album because it just, I feel like it got into a very repetitive cycle and there wasn't anything new being brought to the table. And I don't want to disappoint fans because fans are fickle and I'm fickle and I don't want to disappoint myself either and be untrue to myself. And I got to be honest, because of the rapid fire nature of our album cycles, we're 5 albums deep, man, of this style. And I got to admit, as prolific as I'm a writer I may be, the wells kind of run dry when it comes to that style of stuff. I feel like if I continued down that path, that I would truly be repeating myself pretty badly, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to repeat myself. I don't want to disappoint myself, and I don't want to disappoint the fans. So I'm just going to go the way I'm going to go, the way it feels naturally.
That's fantastic. I mean, do you think repeating yourself is the worst thing you could do musically?
Well, I mean, one of them. I mean, there's, you and I were around during that shift to like the early 90s where every band kind of diluted themselves a bit for sake of, appeasing to the mainstream more. Metallica did it, Anthrax did it, Megadeth did it. All the big thrash bands at the time kind of shifted downward and just got a lot tamer, a lot safer, all at the same time. And it was obviously in the interest of, getting a bigger fan base and appeasing a record label. But I think that's probably the worst thing that you can do is really shift so unnaturally. I think if it's a natural transition and it's not a huge jolt to a fan who grows to love you for certain elements in your music, then I don't think it's the worst thing to do. I think it's only dangerous when you're doing a drastic shift like all those bands did back in the day.
That kind of shift was going on even into the 80s when the LA scene was taking off and hair metal bands were becoming bigger. Ozzy started wearing sequins. Judas Priest put out, Turbo.
Right.
Anthrax in the 90s went with rap, and they went with new metal. I used to condemn bands like that for doing it. Then I interviewed somebody one day. They were like, it's a business to them. They have payroll to make. This is their job.
Sure.
That's what they do for a living. They have to do that to stay relevant and to keep the machine going. And I kind of understood it after that. But I think personally, if I was in that, I wouldn't want to be in that position as a band member. I kind of sold myself to whatever was happening at the time, even if I didn't feel it or believe in it. I got to believe in my music. I got to feel
Of course.
it. And I know you're the same
Right.
way.
Yeah, and there's a threshold. I mean, and you can look at like, okay, Slayer, I think is a good. I'm staring at a Slayer poster right now, so it's a good example to use. Slayer, being Slayer for so many years, and then then Diabolus and Musica comes out. There's a threshold to dwell in when you're talking about transitioning your music into new realms, sonically speaking, and when that album came out, again, it was just such a drastic shift and such a obvious attempt at what I would call new metal to me at the time. It left a really bad taste in my mouth, and I think it did a lot of fans. And the some fans will come back, if you apologize, musically speaking, and are like, yeah, we went down a weird road, but we're back. Some fans will come back, but there are some fans that just will turn their backs on you at that point, and they'll never turn back around. So you have to think about that kind of stuff. So that's why, shifting is good, growing is good, but only in an incremental state, I would say.
I completely agree with you on that. And like you were talking about earlier, with the way you put albums out with Ironflame, like that progressive every year, every other year, and it can get draining on you, musically, like that. But
Sure.
do you feel like we live in a world now, and it's just like, listen, when I was a kid, if a movie came out in January, and I see movies playing in the theaters in September, a movie went out for 6 or 7 months, you bought a record back then, you played it every day for months and months and months, if not for years. That's
Oh,
still
yeah.
a new record. Where today, if you put out a record on Monday, people forgot you put out that record on Thursday, and there's a new band on Wednesday that they got into, they forgot about on Friday.
You're right, and I think it's I think the difference here is, even though it is like that nowadays, it's a generational thing. I don't know about you, but I know I still do that. Like, if a band comes out or an album comes out and I'm obsessed with it, I stay obsessed with it the same amount of time that I did back when I was 17 and I got obsessed with an album. But nowadays, the market is so saturated. Like you said, there's so much competition and there's so much stuff to weed through and listen, and you're constantly being bombarded with new music. It's infinitely harder to break through and keep people's attention. But I feel that the generation that has grown up with modern technology like the internet and now smartphones, social media, all that stuff, those guys are the worst. They have the shortest attention spans, and it is next to impossible to keep them, constantly entertained. Like, they're just going to move on. They may pay attention to you for 15 minutes, but they're moving on. No matter how much they love you, they're moving on.
It's true.
So it's tough.
As a songwriter, I mean, do you have to take that into consideration, or you just say, you know what, I'm writing for my fans, but I'm also writing for me? Because if you wrote for them, like if you came up with a riff and 2 seconds later you said, no, they're gonna forget that in a minute, so I got to try something else. Do you actually write for the people like that?
Yes and no. I flip flop. I'm really, my brain is divided equally when it comes to, will the fans like this, or do I like this, or is this right to do in this moment? And every now and again I'll teeter on that precipice between the two things, and I'll have an inner struggle about it. But most of the time, the side that is about myself wins out, and says, you know what, at the end of the day, I'm not going to please every fan every single time, and I have to accept that no matter how much I love this or not. I really, at the end of the day, have to write music that pleases myself, because if I wrote something that didn't please myself but everybody loved it, at the end of the day, I don't know if I could sleep at night, to where if I put out something that I loved and everybody disliked it, I'd still sleep like a baby. It's more important to write and be true to yourself, I think.
Very true. And, is that one of the reasons, like, technically you're a one-man band when it comes to writing and recording your music? Chris Black is like that with High Spirits. He has his band that
Yep.
goes out when I'm on the road. and
Yep.
he does everything. So you feel like this way, you're the captain of the ship. You control everything. But then, like you said earlier, I had like this little writer's block for a while that I had to kind of get over. Where if you had other
Mm.
band members contributing, I mean, does
Right.
that help out, or do you just say, "I'll do it on my own because I know it's going to be my product, my consistency, and what I know people deserve"?
Well, it's not that I'm not a control freak, despite how it may look. And I would gladly accept input from other band members. And at one point, once in that writer's block, I definitely considered it hardcore. But we come back to an inner struggle, and the inner struggle that I went through was, you know what? If I invite any other mind into this songwriting process, there's a very good chance it may change enough to where it doesn't even sound like Ironflame, and that would be my biggest fear there. I like no matter at the end of the day, no matter how much I shifted around musically, my friends and my musician friends who have known for decades know me very well, and they've often told me like I could tell if I was on the other side of the world in a bar and one of your songs came on that I've never heard before, I would know that you wrote that riff. So
Sure.
I'd like to feel like my identity would seep through no matter how I shifted the music, musically speaking, to where if I brought somebody else in, it might change it so drastically that I might lose the identity of it. And I don't want to do that, obviously. But I say all the time that the musicians that play live with me are 10, 20 times the musician that I am when it comes to skill level. They're all way more talented than me at their instrument. And that's why they're a part of the live band. And it's an effortless process. To me, it's a very efficient way to conduct a band the way I do it, because I take the time to construct the songs, record the songs, and then hand it to them. And that's all I have to do is hand it to them. I don't have to sit down with each band member and say, okay, in this part, we do this. Now don't forget this. Like, I've never had to do that with any band member that's in the current lineup. I just give them the songs, and then we get together a week later and they know the songs. I don't have to coach them on anything. So, and they're playing it better than I played it on the record. So it
Something
would,
to it.
yeah, and it would, it could be done that way. We could do it traditionally, and I could write the songs, give it to them. We could take the time to sit there and learn them to a point where they're, honed enough to record, and then go in and record with the live lineup. That would add 8 to 12 months onto the process, I think, and that would totally, for lack of a better way of saying it, fuck up the rapid fire album cycle that everybody's used to in this band. So, and I think that I've talked to these guys about it numerous times, and everybody is completely content with the way things are, and there's no reason to change it.
Why would you if it's working and it has been working? And this
That's
is a
it.
technique that actually goes back to Moonthorne, where you were kind of the be all to end all with that band too. But then you've had Dafka, and
Yep.
recently, Icarus Witch, where you have Jason Myers, who's like the main guy in that band with the
Yep.
songwriting, and then you have Jim Dafka from Dafka. So you work in
Yep.
both. You work in both aspects of the business. You contribute and you control the music for your own band. So it's whatever you're doing is working for you.
Absolutely, and because I'm, I play that other role in these other bands like Brimstone Coven, and Icarus Witch, to where I have little to no input on the songwriting process. I see the joy in that role as well. It's nice. It's nice being presented with music from somebody else and me just doing my thing on my instrument in that band. I'm perfectly content with that. There's a joy there, and I see it. So I totally understand why these guys feel that way about this band. And yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, man. But I'm nothing if I'm not diplomatic with everything that I'm involved in musically. And if anybody ever wanted to change anything at any given time, I'm always willing to entertain any given idea. If somebody wasn't happy and wanted to change something, I would gladly try to change that and make them happy.
I I can imagine. And, being from West Virginia, I don't see that being a hotbed for heavy metal, even back in the day.
It never has been.
I
No,
can imagine.
no.
Was it difficult? I mean, in the days where there was no internet and no social media, and everything was done, by communicating with people and talking the old-fashioned way. How difficult
Yep.
was it to be in a metal band in West Virginia back then, without any way of promoting yourself?
Oh, it was next to impossible. And back then, I'm sure you were into the tape trading days,
Yep.
pen pal days. So, I relied on written publications like Metal Maniacs and Metal Mania and Thrash Metal Magazine, and those magazines had classified personal ads, and so I would get pen pals out of those personal ads and trade tapes and demos with people that way. That was the only way I could communicate with the outside world or get exposed to other bands on that level. And but as far as existing as a active live band back then, yeah, we had to lie to bar owners and say that we were a rock and roll band, and then they get this rude awakening when we actually start playing, when we came out in corpse paint and we're sword fighting each other, so yeah, it was definitely tough back in the day. And the people that liked that kind of music and would actually come out and see it was even fewer and farther between. It was definitely a labor of love, way more back then than it is now. Now, even the most extreme genres of metal are pretty widely accepted nowadays.
It's true, and one of the last demo tapes I traded for, even though I started in the early '80s, was Black Moon Hymns by Dethroned. Who would have known that you
Yeah,
would have been in that band
I
after
know,
that?
right? Yeah, that was well, I think that was two demos before I got in the band.
And the
I
song
think there was
before,
Black Moon Hymns, there
Seven
was
Sun.
Dark Rebirth was, I think, the one that came out right after Black Moon Hymns. If I recall correctly, we're talking about decades ago, and that was Jeff's project, the drummer. But yeah, their original guitar player relocated, and they needed a guitar player. And yeah, I was fresh out of high school, and that was the first like real original band that I joined. That was mid '90s, like '94, '95.
Yeah, when you join your first band like that out of high school, do you say to yourselves, "This is it, guys. We're going to take on the world. We're going to be the biggest thing since sliced white bread"? I mean, how do you approach it at that age? It was
It
just
was
it was for fun.
no, it was way different because I was a death metal and a grindcore kid, so I knew all about that stuff. But that second wave of black metal that was hitting right then, 94, 95, I had not been exposed to it yet. So when that drummer reached out to me about the guitar player position, I was like, "Well, what do you play?" And he said, "Black metal." I said, I'm sorry, man. I don't know what black metal is. So he gave me the Emperor and Enslaved split cassette. And he gave me something else. He gave me two albums to cite as well. This is black metal. I think it may have been a Dark Throne album or something, but I was like, okay, so this is extreme like death metal, but there's very little palm muting, and there's a bunch of inverted chords, and the vocal approach is high shrieking instead of low guttural. Got it. Let's go. But I was really learning the genre as I was playing it. So it was a kind of a weird experience there, but it was amazing. And I'm really glad I did it because it got me enamored with that second wave of black metal too, which I still listen to this day.
Yeah. Were you always musically inclined, or did these instruments kind of take you a while to figure out and learn? Did anything come natural to you?
Well, like so many kids in junior high, you get exposed to music, and then you get inspired by music, and then the circle of friends that you're in are like, we can do this. Let's form a band and let's try this. And we all did. And I originally wanted to be a drummer, but I came from a very broke family. We had like no money to go around, so drums were the most expensive
Yeah.
instrument, so that was just not an option for me back then. And just from singing along with stuff to the stereo, the other guys in my circle of friends noticed that I could sing, and nobody else in my circle could carry a tune in a bucket. So, and it just happened to be the cheapest instrument. So it just kind of worked out that I fell into the vocalist role. It wasn't something that I was striving for whatsoever. It was kind of circumstantial more than anything.
When you tell people that don't know you, yeah, I'm a musician, I'm in a band, they say, what instrument do you play? Do you say everything? Or do you pick one out? Do you consider yourself a drummer, a guitar player, a singer, or just a musician in general?
When people know like the behind the scenes stuff about Ironflame or any other solo project I do, they ask me about that. They're like, "Oh, you play everything." What my answer is that I could fake my way through anything. Like drums, I know I can play drums just enough to like in these little spurts of maybe 30 seconds at a time to where I could spit out a verse length run of some drum beats, and that's about it. Like, there's no way that I could be in a live band playing drums. I would lose steam immediately, and I can play guitar, but guitar takes a lot of concentration to me. It doesn't come super naturally, and I just I've played guitar in bands live before, but it's just such an exercise in concentration that I don't really enjoy myself, and I can't really be in the moment and connect with the crowd or anything like that. I'm just not that good. So the only thing that I can do that with and kind of turn my brain off and enjoy myself is vocals and bass. I can do it with bass, and that's why the only other band that I'm in that I play a stringed instrument in, I play bass. So yeah, I don't consider myself like this all around highly skilled musician whatsoever. I feel like I'm strongest at vocals, and I'm okay at everything else.
You're more than okay, believe me. Yeah. I mean, and another thing, I was thrilled when you joined Icarus Witch a few years back, about actually 6 years now, I think, probably more than that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the last two records, I think, were some of their strongest in a long time. And I'm happy that you do. It's like between them and Ironflame, everything else, I'm going to get an album a year that you're going to be on, which is a great thing to be a fan of.
Thanks,
Because there's always
man.
going to be something by you out there.
I feel like Icarus is a completely different beast of a vocal outlet for me. I get to spread my wings and do things that I would never normally do in Ironflame and or any other band for that matter. And it takes a lot of the pressure off me lyrically. Like as good of a vocalist as I feel I may be, I don't feel like I'm a good lyricist whatsoever. I feel like writing lyrics are an utter chore, and you may not know this about Icarus Witch, but Jason is the main lyricist for 95% of all Icarus Witch material. So it takes that burden off of me, and Quinn writes things, and Jason writes things in these musical backdrops again that make me explore these areas that I would never ever normally explore. So I get a way different sense of fulfillment out of that band. And I don't know. Yeah, it's just a joy to be in.
I mean, No Devil Lived On, I thought, brought such a new height of, I don't know how to describe it to the band. It felt like a whole new band when that record came out. And I think it has a lot to do with your vocal stylings on that album. And it's a combination of the music and the lyrics and everything. But I think when you added to that thing vocally, really took Icarus Witch in a whole new direction.
Well, I think the big difference there between the album, that album and the album before it was we were kind of only 3/4 of a band on Goodbye Cruel World. We were, it was Jason, Quinn, and I, and we didn't really have a drummer when that album came out. We had a session drummer, John Rice, who's an amazing, incredible drummer, and he really made the record. But because he was a session drummer and wasn't a member, there was a piece of the chemistry missing. And so when Noah, who's the live drummer for Ironflame, joined the Icarus Witch fold, and he got to flex his muscles and show his skill set on those songs, I think the chemistry was complete, and that's why it turned into this beautiful, almost progressive sounding beast of an album that it did. I think really that can all be attributed to the chemistry of the four of us together contributing on that album.
I agree. Andrew, I'm going to let you go in a few minutes because I want to play a couple of songs off the new record. And
Sure.
I know when I get music from you, it doesn't matter what band it is, you always deliver. You never disappoint. I don't think you ever will. I mean, you're just that
Thanks,
good at
man.
what you do, and keep it up, buddy. I mean, I love it. Officially, what, July 26th is the release date for Kingdom 20?
That's right. July 26th. It's going to be available on High Roller's website in Europe, and then we're going to have it on our Bandcamp in all formats, and we're going to do some really special stuff for the vinyl format, U.S. only, Bandcamp only. We're going to put all kinds of goodies in this vinyl bundle package, so look out for that.
I love it. I can't wait to pick up a copy of the vinyl. Even though I get all the music for free from the record labels, I still go out and buy the vinyls when they come out or the CDs because that's the only way to support the music, to support the scene, and to keep guys like you going and putting out new music every couple of years, or every year in your case.
Damn right, man. Well, we appreciate it.
You got it, Angie. Take care, my friend. Have a great night.
All right, you too, Mike. We'll see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Another day has turned to night, and with the ever-fading light, your inner demons you must fight. But in the shadows lurks a beast who only wants your soul to feast. Into your conscience she will creep, and now there is no turning back. You feel your vision fade to black. She is the mistress of desire. Her blackened wings will take you higher. There is no use, you can't deny her. She leads you straight into the fire. She is descending from above, destroying everything you love, and yet you still can't get enough. Just like a snake, she slithers in to make a way under your skin, so you can feel complete again. She's tearing at your very soul. Feels like you're losing your control. She is the mistress of desire. Her blackened wings will take you higher. There is no use, you can't deny her. She leads you straight into the fire.
that's all she wrote, folks. I want to thank Andrew and Bryan for being on tonight's show. I'll see you guys next Sunday night with Adam Tranquilli from Blood Feast. Take care, everybody. Have a great week.